Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Inworld review for 24th of February. And guess what? I'm going to get the year right this week. It's 2013. And for the first time ever, we've actually integrated the main live bit of the Metaverse Week in Review, of which this show is part, into the Inworld review. So I'm sort of doing a welcome to the whole show here rather than just the Inworld segment. And it is all change here, I have to admit. You probably saw the intro on the live channel a few minutes ago, those of you watching on live stream. We've decided, basically, because of glitches with recording live cameras and everything, to move our live camera show to Google Hangouts, where we'll record it and actually run it as part of this show. But this show, the main strand of this show, is now going to be the In-World review. And it offers us an opportunity to change after 5.5 years from what has essentially been monologue, i.e., camera switching, to dialogue. Because one of the beauties of immersive environments like Second Life, where we're filming at Chilbo, of course, although not today for reasons unspecified, is that, of course, it's just like the real world. Lots of us can sit in the room and shout over each other so nobody can hear a darn thing. Hopefully, we will refrain from doing that, but we will have dialogue as well as a little bit of commentary from me and Tara as per usual. So from now on, you will find this show will be going up live on live stream. It will then be going up on YouTube, Vimeo, Blip TV, and lots of the other places we can push it to. And if you're watching us live on live stream, you can then continue to part two, which will feature the clips we often show. And in some future weeks, at least, you will then be able to, after the clips, you'll actually be able to see a Google Hangout. Where we'll be inviting anybody really who wants to come in and join us on a Google Hangout to do just that. And that will actually sort of retain the flavor of the original Week in Review that we used to run at Operator 11, in fact. Those of you watching live may be interested to know that we're filming today in Mindyul. I think that's the right pronunciation. The link is actually in chat if you want to join the In-World audience.
And I've always pronounced it Mendeley.
Thank you, Tara. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tara. If you care to come along, do. Normally, we'll be filming from my Inworld studios in Chilbo in Second Life, but this week we couldn't get voice there. Linden Labs appear to be doing something with their voice servers, which kind of got in the way of those proceedings. Now, those of you who wonder where the magical voice came from just now, that is because Tara Yeats is no longer in the webcam studio as normal, but she's here with me. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you, Mal.
And I think what I'm going to do to get things rolling here is I might come back to some highlights of the week when we actually get to starting talking. But my highlights of the week was obviously here to announce some changes. So I think maybe let's go move over to you now, Tara, and get your sort of updates on the week. And as per usual, but avatar-stylee.
Yeah, well, this will take some getting used to because you kind of get your own little habits going on how you arrange your screens. And with this change, my avatar is on the screen that I normally read off of, but I don't need to read off of that screen. And besides which, there's other stuff in the way. So anyway, welcome from my corner of the swamp, which still is the Pacific Northwest, which is the Pacific Northwest today because it's showery. And as far as metaverse news this week, it seems like it's been a little sparse, at least for news from Second Life, other than some arts-related items, which I suspect Safia will have a much better grip on than I do. But a couple things caught my attention. First off was actually one of those wonderful 3D RL sim objects, a new 3D pen, which has been launched for funding on on Kickstarter. It's being called 3 Doodler, The startup company behind it is called Wobbleworks, which I think is a great name for a company. And basically, what it will let you do is using the same sort of plastics that are used in 3D printers, which are coming down daily in price. It will let you basically you can doodle in the air, you can doodle on paper and make objects and then assemble them and use it to glue them together, and it looks really cool. So anyway, if you're into making stuff, this might be of interest to you. And it's one of these that definitely caught attention on Kickstarter because it within 48 hours they had a modest fundraising goal of $30,000, and within 48 hours they had pledges of $1.1 million US, and that was like 4 days ago. So who knows where they are now. Anyhow, that's just one of those interesting things that that has some, I think, some very interesting potential in the same vein as 3D printers for different ways of doing things and different ways of making stuff in the real world. And who knows, there may be some applications for using this to create mesh items in Second Life. As a starting point in sketching, and then who knows, scan that, turn it into a digital conversion, and then import it. Anyway, interesting stuff. For those of you who I'll have to find the link for this to pass it along. But every once in a while, I run into an article that makes my brain hurt, and that's not something I say too often because usually I can wrap my head around most concepts. But an interesting article on the subject of art, and specifically talking about hyperreality. And a brief definition of this from the article: hyperreality explains how artists, as consumers in society, create artificial simulations and endless reproductions of fundamentally empty images. Images or objects can be taken out of context, simulated or augmented over images of a place such as a city. This all spun off of talking about Bourget's one-paragraph story on exactitude in science, which basically talks about cartographers creating a map that is so detailed it covers the very things it was designed to represent. And then as the empire declines, the map fades into the landscape, and there's neither the representation nor the original remaining, which is just, one of those twist your mind around and spit it out the other end things. But what particularly caught my attention were a couple of things. There was a neat diagram from John Smart from an article called, or a book, this may be a book, Metaverse Roadmap, Pathways to a 3D Web. That's basically a 4x4 grid with using external on one side, internal on the other, augmentation on the top, and simulation on the bottom, with things in the squares. But in addition to that little thing, which I thought was kind of interesting to see one person's way of looking at the pieces, was this wonderful definition of the metaverse, which is something that Mal has down, what he introduces this show with. But the metaverse defined in 4 words: collective, online, shared space. That's it. And I looked at that and said, "Hey, that's pretty cool." I'd not seen a definition quite as eloquent as that one before. So anyway, it's an interesting article, and I think I'll have to find the URL and pass it along because the whole thing is really focused more on art and hyper reality, but there's some interesting bits in it. And the next item I have. We're always talking about bits and pieces of how virtual spaces are being used for real-world kinds of work, education, research, and an interesting new simulated world being created by a student at East Texas State University, where she's using it to study the spread of infectious disease. using virtual people who exist in the virtual world, and her method of research could someday lead to a better understanding of how disease spreads in the real world and how it can be stopped. What she's doing is she's using a virtual world model that is a bit like SimCity, as far as how it populates, how it grows. It gets more complex as time goes along. As in the real world, people move around, they meet each other, they reproduce, they die, and they're adding some interesting bits to it as they go along. So, for example, offering individuals the opportunity to become vaccinated, places where people are disinclined to go to hospitals as opposed to other areas of the simulation. And this is all she's doing all this in part for a graduate degree project, but it struck me as really interesting combination of effects using a virtual environment. So I'll be interested in seeing how that one follows up. And I also wonder how they're going to model putting in such things as individual differences in resistance to bugs. It's one thing to say, okay, well, you go out and you wander around in public and you're exposed to things, but whether or not you get them isn't just a slam dunk. It's your own resistance has an awful lot to do with that, and there are lots of variables that affect one's resistance. So it'll be interesting to see if that turns out to be something that they manage to work into this virtual world sim virus setup. I don't see any kind of name attached to it, but it really needs one. And then the last item I had, there's an interesting thing turned up this week. Vanish Firecaster, who is involved in open source grids, had staged a meeting, has put together kind of a draft outline of a statement of avatar rights. Now, there have been other things done at other times, but this one is always, these are always kind of interesting because the issue of rights and terms of service and portability and all those kinds of things get bounced around a lot. There was a meeting yesterday. It wasn't in OS Grid, it was in Craft Grid, I believe is where they ended up doing it. Hopefully this is not the last of, and maybe an ongoing series. But he's basically identified 3 areas that he sees of significance. Appearance, inventory, and access and privacy. And one of the things a couple of things that were particularly interesting in this that I thought, talking about first off in talking about the avatar, he defines avatar means any digital data assigned to a human operator. The data is to be seen as a prosthetic extension of the human operator's nervous system and forms part of the operator's personality, which is a very interesting way of putting it. As such, the avatar is inseparable from the human operating it. And that obviously has some interesting ramifications that people can well want to kick around. Under appearance, he starts off here, the appearance of the avatar is an expression of its personality and is such as central to its existence. It must not be restricted in any way other than limitations that arise from the restrictions of the technology that is being used. Now, I probably should backtrack on this because this raises a lot of free speech kinds of questions. And he begins in his preface basically saying, where there are real world laws that apply, those take precedence, no question, no argument about that. And that any statement of avatar rights needs to address issues that simply are not addressed by statute, law, real world kinds of rules and regulations. And I think his second major premise is less is better. In other words, don't get carried away creating lots of rules. Just look at the things that are really essential. And so that's where he came up with these 3 as a starting point. Under inventory, he says the inventory of the avatar is all the data assigned to it. As long as it is not publicly visible as part of the appearance, it is considered private and is to be protected from unauthorized access at all times. And then he includes also in this the right to get a copy of your inventory. complete. This is obviously a long-standing issue with Second Life of not being able to non-portability of your Second Life inventory. So that's in here, and if at any time, he says, if at any time an avatar requests the data of its inventory, it must be handed over to its human operator in its entirety and in a timely fashion. That's what he's got under his statement of avatar rights. And then he's got an access and privacy statement. Any avatar must have access to all public areas of the service at all times. Public areas are such that they are by their nature or intention aimed at an unquantified or undefined part of the assembly. He uses the term assembly to refer to all the avatars that might be part of any given virtual environment. Anyway, it's an interesting bit of work, some interesting thought in it. And it's Vanish Firecaster, and the URL for this one is http:// as in Victor .tgib.co.uk. That's one of the less friendly of the URLs I've seen around. Not the co.uk part, but the v.tgib. It's short. It's got to get at that. So anyway, that's I'll kind of try to keep an eye on that one, because I think that has some interesting elements to it. And that's all I've got this week, Mal. But I bet you've had a chance to look at your list, and you've come up with half a dozen things that I missed.
Well, thank you very much, Tara, indeed. Yes, and you triggered a few things too. For those who don't follow me at twitter.com/Mal Burns, please do so. There are links there to a couple of things Tara's mentioned during the past week. And if you're in the live stream chat at the moment, watching the live program, I've actually put the URL to the article. I think it's the right URL. It's Hyper Reality in the Urban Metaverse. And the URL for that is in the live stream chat as well. So Twitter sort of relay URL, so to speak. Very interesting there. Yes, you mentioned the avatar rights and featuring inventory backup. I think we might get into a greater conversation about this in a minute or two. But interestingly, amongst the news this week, the open sim world of Inworlds, which is actually a walled garden, a bit like Second Life, i.e. it's not on the hypergrid, did actually introduce inventory backup this week. That's on one of my sort of headline news there anyway. So if you have an inventory in Worlds, spelled with a Z, you can back up your inventory courtesy of the managers of that grid, even though it's not compatible with the hypergrid or anything. And I gather various security systems are in place in order for you to do that safely. There was a major film, I guess it may well be a year or so ago now, called Login for Life, which sort of got a lot of traction. And it's YouTube Encore, as you might call it, was announced this week. It simply means that if you have never seen the film Login for Life, you can now see it in its glorious entirety, 100 minutes or so, in full, free on YouTube. So just go to... the film's title is Log In to Life, and the 2 is a numeral. And I guess if you search for that on YouTube, you will find it quite happily. The new HTML5 Metaverse Viewer, Pixie Viewer, I mentioned last week, has had yet more revamps to its beta UI. And if all goes well, Sunny Salamander, the CEO of Pixie Viewer, will be joining us on this very program this time next week. He's pretty much said he'll be here to discuss the Pixie Viewer and bringing the metaverse to life via HTML5. So it'll be not only on your computer screens, but on your pads, on your phones, and everywhere else that runs HTML, which of course is the system that runs on a modern web. Talking of texty sort of things, one of my favorite viewers is a viewer called Radagast. Whether one really wants to call it a viewer is up in the air. There is a plugin that allows you to see still shots of in-world scenes, but basically it's a text client that allows you to manage your inventory, do IMs, teleport around, and do basically everything you need to do in Second Life or OpenSim. without actually logging into the full visual client that you might be using. And I mention it because it too has had a brand new upgrade this week. So if you're interested in that, look for RADEGAST. That is Radagast, a text-based viewer. I think it may just be on Windows, it may be on Mac, but it's basically a desktop text-based viewer. You obviously have Pocket Metaverse and on the iPad and various others on Android and such. Right. If I didn't mention it last week, it may have just been reposted here actually, but Krista Lopez, the person who invented the hypergrid, has actually updated the OpenSim installation code for people downloading it, and it now has advanced group support added to it. So if you're working on simulators, and the hypergrid, you can now you can have groups. You've been able to have groups for quite a while, but I think you can have hypergrid-wide groups. I think is what the basic change is. So I'm looking forward to that one too. Scrolling up the list instead of down the list. I don't know why I'm doing it up today. I normally do it down, but never mind. Let's see. Oh yes, there is a virtual world, and it is a virtual world, but it tends to be used by the enterprise more than anything else, called Protosphere. And they had an update during the week too. They've got improved metrics, and they've got improved moderator tools, which, of course, being a sort of enterprise-type virtual world client, is fairly crucial. Tara referenced an item on the Metaverse code earlier. I've got a link for that here, which is http://t.co/C Y numeral 8, lowercase r, capital Q, capital W, lowercase y, capital F. And finally, the Kokua viewer, that is spelled Kokua, has been updated to version 3.5.2.5, blah, blah, blah. Lots of numbers on this one. Kokua is very much the successor, or will be the successor, to the OpenSim impedance viewer. It is still in beta, and there are no plans to take it out of beta yet. They specifically said that although it's perfectly fit for purpose, they prefer keeping it in beta until they reach a certain stage in its more advanced development. But if you are a fan of the Kokua viewer, an update was available this week. So that I will be saving for our discussion the various other things I've got here, which is sort of links from Second Life and Inworld, so to speak. But that's about it for the roundup there. Do watch our clip sequences for interesting clips later on, sort of various technologies, as well as machinimas filmed in worlds with arts and music and stuff. But meanwhile, I think we're about ready to jump into what you might call the meat of the Inworld review. The Inworld review, as we've been doing it now for a couple of months, and I'm pleased to welcome her seat is empty. Something has been happening in the background here, and I'm not sure what. Maybe it has something to do with the Skype bleeps that I'm hearing in the background, which I can't see. Right. Okay. We should be, hopefully, shortly, joined by Safia Wiedershins as ever. In the meantime, I do have sitting with us our wonderful camera woman who's both sitting here and on camera at the same time. It's Pet Love Pet Shop. Hi, Pet. Happy Sunday to you. I heard a quick toggle of the microphone there. We seem to have a slight delay getting Safia in, so I think we'll just sort of start.
I'm actually sitting next to you, Mal.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yes, I see her.
Okay, in which case it's in this case Second Life is playing havoc with my viewers. So hi, Safia too. Welcome, Safia.
Hello. I'm glad to be here. I did have quite an adventure getting in. I kept crashing out every time I first logged in.
It's funny, while I was talking, I heard Skype bleeping away, but it was under the window I was reading my latest news from. And I was just thought, oh, they're just having a natter back there.
No, it was quite hair-raising, but I'm finally here.
Well,
So I don't know why it's been so tricky.
why I can't see you either, but maybe that's just Linda Lamb seems to be playing up today with voice and everything. I also forgot to mention, by the way, that we seem to have a fifth guest in the studio, which I expected Tara to introduce. He's lurking.
Oh, yes.
As Rainbow.
Rainbow, yes. That's Rain, Rainbeau. He's a kitty cat. And he's one whose coloring I just love. He's past breeding age, but he's been one who's turned into a little keeper.
He's
and
well, actually, but...
and he sort of makes up for the fact that obviously with no RL sim camera, you don't have the occasional opportunity to see a cat perched on my chair behind me. So I figured, well, we can certainly reproduce that in World.
And this one is actually remarkably well behaved too. So
he is.
That's fine.
He's been snoozing ever since I set him out. Yeah.
What kind is he?
He's an Aussie cat. He's just a minute. I'm going to have to bring up his information because I always forget. He's an Aussie cat tawny, and he has his shade is flare. So he's got his light is it's not just a plain coat, which adds a little interest to his coloring. And his eyes are rainbow prism if he ever opens them.
Ah, yes, I've got a few rainbow prisms. Yeah, I've got a few rainbow prisms. Yeah, I was hatching out a couple of Abyssinian lilacs today with mocha eyes. They're rather gorgeous. So I've got a couple of little kittens. I should have brought one along. Mal is just going to feel so totally outnumbered by the cats. Perhaps we should introduce a couple more per show.
I was just going to say we need Pet Love to bring the rabbits aboard. Then we'll have real fun. And most people forget that when in my idle time, when I'm not busy hosting shows and stuff like that, where I need a human avatar, I am indeed myself a wonderful little pussycat. I'm actually a very miniature big cat. Truth be told, that is what I think. I'm a big cat in petite land, put it that way. But I've been commenting, I endlessly comment on this about 3 times this week. I've been in conversations about role play and stuff. And I keep saying to these guys, well, so I don't give a damn about what costume I'm wearing. I'm a putty cat and I just wander in and I fit everywhere. I fit in all times. I'm a spaceship cat. I'm a Victorian cat. I'm a medieval cat. I'm even in there with the Cromangans.
And all done at the age of makeup. I think it's brilliant.
It is.
Oh, yes.
That's superbly adaptable feline form. You've got to love it. You really have. Okay, well, I feel very strange looking at my monitor because I'm addressing an empty seat, but never mind about that. But I
really am here. Everyone will assure you that I really am here.
I can hear you too, which is the main thing. So Zafir, what's up with you this week? I know for a fact, actually, you've been in Cloud Party filming, haven't you?
I have. Well, we're doing the actual filming. We did the recce on Thursday, and we're over there to film on Tuesday. And it's going to be interesting and quite challenging. There have been a couple of kind of promotional films made about Cloud Party, but I think we're going to be the first TV show to go and film there. But then we've generally been the first TV show to film in quite a few places. I think we were first in Inworld and as well, to sort of go in and take a good long look at places. So, yeah.
I actually recall that I think, I'm not blowing my own trumpet here because it was largely down to Slimmy and Double Down, but I think actually we were the first to, we used to have a thing called, the guys at Coinop nicked it, Rocking the Metaverse. And we went, we took this musical show with Grace McDonough, Dizzy Banjo and Slim Warrior. And we did, every week we did a different grid and televised it, and it got a bit boring after a while because it was almost the same music every time, but only the grid was different. So I remember this. The reason I remember this is that one of the stops on the tour there was Reaction Grid, which of course Tara and I later had estates on, and we were very fond of where it was on OpenSim. But it's so long ago that even Reaction Grid was very, very, very flaky when we did this, and we did it in Meta Place. Which is now gone too, which was sort of 2.5D sort of thing, and believe me, that wasn't television.
Did you ever make Blue Mars?
We did. We didn't on that tour. I certainly did film with Metaverse TV, something in Blue Mars, but it was pretty. If I remember rightly, I think it was for NBC News. We took the cameras in and we filmed. And then we showed it as inset footage on NBC News. But that was very nice to look at, for sure. It was very television-genic, or whatever the word is.
Televisual, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Telegenic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's gone. I think there are some interesting questions to be asked about Cloud Party and its audience and its intended demographic and so on. We'll
was it? Tell me, was it very populated when you were there, or?
There were certainly a few people in several locations, mostly at the starting point, I have to say. It's very simple to use, and you'll see on the show, it uses a kind of, its UI, its metaphor is the iPhone, essentially.
Right.
And you have a little phone at the top right-hand corner, and then you click on the app that you want to use. I hope you can hear the inverted commas that I'm putting into around most of the words I'm speaking at the moment. It's an interesting metaphor, and it's a very simple one. And it makes for a very uncluttered screen. But there's stuff like difficulties in moving, which really, need to be addressed. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Of course. Mm.
I found it very difficult to actually get the plugin working on the browsers I was using at first. I did get in there a couple of times, and that actually we have run on this show quite a few machinima films showing it, especially Patrick Moya, the French setup, and on screen on machinima form it looks very like Second Life, and the interface was hidden and everything else, but. I didn't really grow on it immediately, but I suppose the fact that it launched really as not a Facebook plugin, but an app you could launch via Facebook. I think that was how it got a lot of early traction, and it does seem that that's sort of leveled out a bit now.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll look forward to seeing that show. Anyway, it's good to have.
It's going to be interesting. Tomorrow, though, hey, I'm doing my plug for my show at the beginning rather than the end of the. But I might as well while I'm here.
You might as well. Less for a chance you forget it.
Next, tomorrow, we're actually going to a region called the Cours, or sometimes called the Duchy. It's based around 18th century France, but sort of the 1740s bourgeois life with a few nobles around. Stunningly beautiful Sims. They really are absolutely gorgeous, beautifully designed, very elegant style of life, beautiful clothes, all of this stuff. Lovely, friendly atmosphere. And they have the most marvelous transport system, both boats and carriage rides, and I have never seen carriage rides that take you so smoothly across sim boundaries as I do in the course.
Oh, nice.
You just sit there, and they have a wonderful system that when you rent land there, you can have your own carriage. So if you want to go and visit a friend, you can just summon a carriage and it will come up to the door to collect you. It won't just res, it will actually come as though from the local inn or the stables and collect you at the door, and you travel in your carriage to wherever you want to go in the estate.
Right.
I just wonderfully done. I mean, it really builds on the feeling that you are genuinely there. It's lovely, and we'll be looking at all of this tomorrow.
Great. Yeah, I did actually have a sneak preview of that, courtesy of the Elric. The Elric, I mean Elric. I mean, it looks great. It does look great. I haven't. I look forward to seeing the whole thing. So yes,
yes, sounds nifty.
Now,
and okay. Do you want another historical thing that is happening?
Yes. Let's go through all the things happening first. Yes.
It's very important, this one. It is the 7th birthday party, the 7th birthday celebrations.
Independent State of Canada, I think.
Yes.
Yay, I've got that on my list here. Yes.
Yes. And I'm hoping, if I can slip away, to pop into the ball. So at some point I want to go over and dance in Caledon to celebrate the 7th anniversary. I've been to some great parties there for the birthday celebrations in the past, so it'll be good to go back. I have actually got a bolt hole in Caledon, which appeared in the Black and Mirror. Do you remember the episode?
Yes.
When
I do.
Quinn found himself on a platform with a chain attaching it to the ground.
Right. That's yours?
That's my bolt hole in Caledon.
There was so much steampunk in Black and Mirror, actually, that sometimes it was confusing which one you were in. There was Caledon and Babbage, and there was.
We didn't actually go to Babbage. I mean, Mr. Biggins comes from Babbage, but we didn't. The steampunk one we went to was Caledon. We just went there this time. And I've got some sad news, actually, relating to the Black and Mirror.
You better get it over with. What?
The Java Jive.
Oh.
The Java Jive is closing.
Oh.
Yeah. It's really sad because that was the bar, the place they went to, the nightclub they went to in episode 2, and it was a great place. It was a great location.
It's just the venue that's closing, nothing to do with the sim itself. I take it.
The sim is okay at the moment, and I hope will continue long. But the Java Jive itself is going, which is really sad. But the people who've been running it feel that they've given it a good shot for 2 years. They've had a lot of fun with it, but they're ready to move on to other things. And who can blame them? But it is sad for us because the Java Jive had a very, very special place in our lives.
Yeah, you'll have to scout a new set, a new setting.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, maybe open the Java Jive 2 somewhere.
I think. Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, sure.
The only problem is that wherever we go, wherever we have our sets, we really want things integrated because of the associated games. So it's no use kind of setting something in the Java Jive if the Java Jive isn't in Seraph City anymore, because then you don't have that point of reference for the games, which is very sad.
Yeah, it's one thing raising a set for a TV show like Today's Emergency, but it's another thing if you want it to be integrated, as you say, part of the chronology, the storytelling.
Yes.
But anyway, I mean, it was great. And I've been to some great events there. It's closing with a last concert on St. Patrick's Day. So there'll be events before then. If you look on Ether Chrononauts, there'll be various gigs going on there right up until the 17th of March. And then it closes on the 17th. So do go and catch it before it goes.
Indeed, indeed. So, Pet Love, anything new with you? You any events coming up that's got your stomach rubbing or? Yeah, camera in tow. Yes, I know. You lead. You lead. Yep. I gather you've got one up already on YouTube that we will show on next week's show because it's only just gone up. It's an outtake of the OBR video you did. Oh yeah.
We did.
So the camera
had a couple of hours of dancing and celebrating, and then we madly, crazily, foolishly decided that we would do the break the chain dance, and I think we spent another 2 hours trying to organize ourselves to get that done. We so needed the Dasslers and their wonderful HUDs that organized everyone, but we got it in the end. And even better, Pet filmed it, so that's part of the film too.
Right. So I like that nervous breakdown play on words. In other words, my camera was not wobbling. Yeah. Right. Sam Quandre at the end was excellent.
Yeah, amazing.
Very
what
talented.
A voice.
Decent pipes, as Tara calls them.
Great pipes. Great pipes.
Great pipes. Yeah.
Okay, well, we get moving on to a few other things. Something that neither Tara and I mentioned in our headline, so to speak, because it's SL specific, but there's been a bit of fuss this week about the fact that Linden Labs have introduced advertising on SL's web pages. Have you seen these?
Yeah, they've introduced Google Ads.
Google Ads.
The Google ad feed that basically any website can sign up to get, and depending upon traffic gives you a certain amount of income, which doesn't amount to squat for sites with very little traffic, but can amount to a few pennies in your pocket if it's otherwise.
I personally, I meant to look at this actually before bringing it up, but does are they well-targeted ads? I think is the main question. Are they relevant?
Well, I actually haven't looked at the page to see what's coming up when I look, but the early reaction I saw was that there's a tendency for them to be most anything. But my experience with Google Ads is they do a certain amount of cookie tracking, so you will tend to see stuff that is relevant to you, depending upon what your own browser cookie settings are as far as what you allow.
Yeah. That's the Google way, really, isn't it? Okay.
Well, presumably, if you're using an ad block, they're text ads. They're not banner ads. Google's got a whole lot of options as far as what you can get, and how it's integrated, and you can also you can specify. There's the advertising site, the site setting up Google Ads has, you can specify advertisers that you do not want to see. So in other words, you could block competitors from being displayed at your own site, or you can block categories. And I'm, there's quite a bit of control that the website itself has over what kinds of Google ads appear.
I don't see them at all because I have an ad blocker on my Firefox. I'm just going to call up my Chrome and see what I see on there because I don't have an ad blocker on Chrome because I don't use it so much.
It's interesting why they moans, although I think they're justified at live stream because we're a free channel. We have to put up with the live stream ads when you open it, and I'm just wondering, with Google, how long? Usually when I go to YouTube, there's no problem, but if machinima and stuff that gets traction at YouTube, Google again tend to sort of start putting ads on top of those too. So I wonder how long before this show it contains Google ads. It must be those billions of people crowding around to watch this show. They want some money out of it now.
I have to say that if it helps them keep Second Life free, if it helps them keep tier at the current levels, and even Let's Dream helps them lower tier, I would be happy for them to have Google ads. I can cope with Google ads on a page. Yeah. I cope with them on the oh God, what is it? I cope with them on The Guardian. I cope with them on.
Oh yeah.
I don't get them on BBC, but I can live with them on other things. I can live with them on Second Life pages when I go in. I don't care. Just as long as they're making revenue and keeping their prices level, maybe even lowering their prices, they can stick what ads they like. It's my choice whether I go and look at them or not.
Exactly, and on a Google type on web pages is pretty unobtrusive. So, in fact, I believe we have them, Tara, on the Metaverse Week in Review site, don't we?
Yeah, we have. I'm not sure where things are at the moment because there was some change in the plugin a while back that I don't recall that I went in and did all the little steps to update. But yeah, that's why I'm familiar with the various kinds of options that we web designers have as far as incorporating Google Ads. Google AdSense is what it's called. And
okay.
that you don't, it doesn't have to be annoying. Intrusive, yeah.
It's the ones that kind of then open up over your over the thing you're trying to read that's irritating.
Or trying to
other
watch.
Things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
just like there was a pop-up box across the bottom of my live stream window of this show. That I was ready to cease doing business with APS because they used a white background. It was taller than the usual bottom banner ad, and it was not transparent. It was like it was blocking about almost a third of the bottom of the screen. And I dismissed it, and then it came right back, and I had to dismiss it twice before it finally went away. But
yeah, I've got a few up now, but I've learned to live with the 30 seconds or so you get when you're tuning into the program, and and thereafter, as long as it's okay, I think we can live with it. After all, we're getting the bandwidth for free, so yeah, we can't complain too much. Okay, let's move on to some more creative things, actually. Although viewers of the watching the replay of Inworld Review won't have seen this, we opened the Week in Review show today with, I think it was called I have forgotten what it's called, but I can tell you in a minute because it's in Red and the Wolf. The clip was closed, and I actually took some Inworld footage of this myself in the week. I don't know whether any of you have been to see it, but it's a new interpretation of Little Red Riding Hood story. It's
right.
It's on a dedicated sim, and it is not pleasant. It's actually a lovely sim, very moody build, but there's a lot of static fake avatars sort of positioned around in poses, and there are knives and there are blood and various things. But there are a whole load of the art crowd sort of there when I was there. I missed the actual opening, which must have been very laggy. But it was sort of fascinating. Anyway, we might discuss that in future when more of us have been there. But curious sort of thing. There was no... there was a story to be told there, should we say, although it wasn't direct storytelling, but there were lots of scenes within the build. And I think it was up to you to sort of interpret the scenes within the build. But very, very interesting, if sort of offbeat thing.
Red Riding Hood is a really, really interesting story. I mean, there was the whole thing that Angela Carter did with it, The Company of Wolves.
Oh.
Yes. It has some very interesting kind of sub-stories. Once you start looking into fairy stories on the web, they'll never seem the same again. But yeah, Angela Carter was ahead of the curve really with that, with the work she did with Company of Wolves and looking into it, and the use of metaphors and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a very interesting one to pick.
Well, you must pop along and see it, and we'll chat about it. Another one. I've actually got a wonderful book here right beside me. The reason it's just called World Tales, and it's one of these big compendiums of very folklore stories from around the world, West and East, edited by Idre Shah. It's one of these very big old, like Reader's Digest massive volumes, and
right.
I pick it up every week, because we have a bedtime story thing in about 2 p.m. on Fridays, and I always read one or two of these, and it's full of nice little short ones that I can read to people in about 5 or 10 minutes, and I like it for that very reason. They all sound like, at first glance, they sound like very innocent stories, but then you read the levels into them, and sometimes I end up reading one I haven't actually read to myself beforehand. And then, I have to resist sort of talking over it and saying, "Oh, and this is very interesting." But yeah, there was some wonderful stuff in folklore and like that. So that certainly lends itself to visual interpretation in places like this. So yeah, that's great.
I remember seeing a very interesting sim based on Macbeth years and years ago.
Yes.
Where you sort of wandered around, and there were different quotes from the play, and it was gorgeous. I think there's so much potential to do that kind of thing in Second Life.
I think
that particular wasn't that sim done basically as an educational project?
Yes, it was.
That's my recollection. I have a table with a globe on top of it. That was one of the items you could pick up wandering around on that, and there were some pretty creepy stuff, as I recall. There were a couple of places like the dungeons that where the ghosts, where you run into the various ghosts, and Lady Macbeth, and there was a maze.
Yes, that's right. Not someone to be encountered in a mist on a dark night.
Dark night with a knife in her hand. Yes.
Yeah.
I seem to remember wandering around that with you, Tara, for quite a while, and it was a full sim build, and if I'm not mistaken, it still exists. Because I seem to recall a very recent blog actually featuring that with some photographs. I mean, it was old hat to me, but I think I posted an Inworld blog that had lots of pictures of it. So I think that is still going, and it was indeed a wonderful build, plenty to explore and pick up and everything else. So, something I tweeted in the week, which may be of interest to those of you watching at home, quote, Have you not yet come into Second Life here? Well, if you are new to Second Life, apparently you can now get a HUD called Homeless Shelter. And it is specifically designed to be a HUD that can be worn by what you might call new persons to the grid. In other words, it's a HUD that contains all the essential things that they otherwise might go shopping to get via various other HUDs. So if you're interested in all-purpose HUD, which is for elementary students of Second Life, no, that's not the right phrase, is it? But anyway, it's a great name for a HUD, really, isn't it? Homeless shelter.
Yeah, it's a bit like the fact that some of the best people helping with newbies have always been the hobo encampment.
I was just about to say that. In fact, I don't know where Geomeat's in the audience. He's closely connected with the hobos as well, as is, I think, Melville. The number of people I've come across in Second Life, we all get rid of groups and pick up new groups and stuff, and we never have enough group spots. But there's an awful lot of people I talk to who just refuse point blank to leave the hobos group. It's like an old favourite that they just can't bear to leave the hobos group. It's their roots, as it were, in the virtual space. And wonderful stuff there.
Well, there have been some really fun things in the way of items that have come out of the hobos too. Fun gizmos and gadgets, toys. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, something else interesting in the week. I mean, I'm actually, while we're doing this show, I'm in World in a viewer called Firestorm, which of course has two separate strands now, one for OpenSim and one for Linden Labs and Lindenville. If you log in with Firestorm, you'll see this on their login screen. But they had a meeting in World. It's about 2.5 hours long, the video, and you can read the transcript. It was back on the 13th of February, which I think may have been last Sunday. But anyway, they are, I'm not going to go into details, but they're advising everybody to read this or watch the video of the meeting, complete with interface, and it looks a bit ugly, but it's got the meat in it, about major changes coming up. And obviously this is from Firestorm's viewpoint, but it relates to what are obviously changes with Linden Labs too. So if you use Firestorm or are thinking about using Firestorm, do check that out. You can find it at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/Y7 C, K, Q. And interesting, if not visually exciting, to watch there. Now, somebody I was thinking of having on the show earlier, but of course then I realised that our friend Rowan is actually been hosting over this weekend, and I think the final ones are still going on. Susan over at LEA, I guess you know about that. Probably both of you. Certainly you, Sanfair, yeah?
Yeah. She's been doing a huge program of talks over the last 2 weekends. It's been phenomenal. They've been on the Prim Perfect blog. She's put out details of them, and it's really very impressive that she's managed to set up and run so many talks in such a short space of time. I reel at her energy when I'm doing things like the Meet the Designer and Meet the Community talks for the birthday and the Home and Garden Expo. I know that kind of 2 weeks are taken out doing the publicity for it and pushing it through. And I have other people who will join me to do the talks. Huge kudos to Rowan for undertaking these very, very interesting talks in such a short space of time. It's been tied in, of course, with the LEA Festival.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Every time I see these, I keep trying to find a link to the television channel they're broadcast on. Of course, and they think, "Oh God, we should be doing that," but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah,
I think we need more camera people.
We need an LEA live channel at this rate.
Yeah.
sort of.
That's true. I don't know whether they've been doing the talks. Have they? Do you know?
Yeah, I think
because it would be nice to have a record of them, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's down to Secret Rage and filming and how much you can, actually beam up live to the live stream channel there. But yeah, interesting stuff anyway, for sure.
Definitely.
Talking performance at 3:00 today, of course, we got yet another Metaverse Island's got another performance by Shanghai Trinity Sisters. It's becoming a regular fare, although I think tonight they're without Cypress Rosewood, so I think they'll be performing to sort of familiar kind of reggae tracks and things like that, which I like, but it's not quite the same as having original music from Cyprus accompanying the show. But anyway, okay, next on my list actually, but before we leave LEA, the February 19th, this was announced, the LEA Airs deadline has been extended. This is the one for people who would like to get a pitch, isn't it, at the LEA?
That's right. Yeah, they have regular grants, which are in fact a 5-month tenure of a sim, and they grant them regularly, and they always want to find new artists who can put together an idea, a concept, and then they will give them a sim. If they will choose which ones that they will give sims to. They really, really do want to bring on new artists and find new talent and share exciting things with people. That doesn't mean that people who've already had LEA sims will never exhibit there again. On the contrary, there are some people who will come up with fresh and original ideas and come back again. But it's got some, it has potential. People shouldn't think, oh, well, my thing wouldn't work. No, I could cover a whole sim, but they don't know me, so they won't be interested in me. They really, really want to find new people. So, if you've got an idea of something you could do with a sim, please apply.
And it probably goes without saying that if you know someone who has the sort of artistic gifts that kicks around ideas that would do well with a full sim, give them a nudge.
Yeah, and as it says, that you will get that sim if you get it. Sorry, if they give it you, you have actually got it for a good few months. So it's not just to sort of come up with an exhibit and we'll put it up for a week or two. It's going to be there semi-permanently for 6 months or something. So
it's a good long spell of time. So that's and it's a real chance to get your work out there.
Right. I think, I think I'd apply too if I possibly had the time, even if only just to make a mess and call it art. Hey, this is something that's never been done before because it's been done by a person who doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and it's an installation. And you never know, somebody might say, I like that, it's profound. No, go, if you're up for a post and you got the time on your hands, go do it, is all I can say. You stand a good chance. Sad news in a way today. This happened an hour before we came on air, but Gracie Kendall's Ce n'est pas une peinture. It's not a painting. Finally closed today. They had a closing bash shortly before we came on air. This is what a sort of semi-psychedelic, really, built things that we featured all over the place. It's in Pet Love's video, of course. There was a mini version of it at the OBR on display, and we've had, I don't know how many machinima we've had up of that over the last few months, but some great stuff there. Somewhat hazardous for camera. It's so psychedelic. You don't know what's going on yourself half the time, but it's a wonderful bit of immersion, really, I think. So. So yes, that did close today, although who knows, something similar might appear a bit later. Have any of you, by the way, been to a sim called Hazardous?
No.
Nope.
Right. Well, this again, I'm only going by the pictures I've seen of this. This is on my visit this week list now. It's got quite a lot of traction in some of the blogs, and I mean not just one blog. You know, the casual bloggers, sort of everything from fashionistas landing there to posing their costumes, full through to the arts people, sort of saying, you know, showing snapshots and saying what a wonderful build it is. So apparently it is. So we'll report on Hazardous when we get there. That's all I can say. Something else that's been going on, and this is I have missed this completely. I had been meaning to follow it. Is a festival called Robstock. It's pitched as a kind of Woodstock type thing, and it was originally Second Life, but they've been running it this year on multiple grids. I'm not quite sure how many of the grids. I think Inworld's for certain, and some hypergrid enabled grids. I think they may have had a few problems when trying to actually run it on so many sims all at once. And I can't actually give you the dates of that. It may or may still not be running, but it's I have been to it in the previous year, and it has been fun. You know, they've been landscaping and having an assortment of different bands, and basically trying to emulate that old sort of Woodstock feeling in a virtual environment. So good old hippie stuff, I suppose. There, really, isn't it?
That sounds good. That sounds very good.
I also came across, and again, I don't know whether you know this. I of course, we did have Happy Hunting again on Friday, which you produced, of course, Safia. This was actually an obscure
Pet Films, we should say. Pet Films and
Pet Films. Yeah, okay, so plug again. But one, I don't know whether this has crossed your radar, but there's been a HUD-on called the Global Domination Hunt. It is.
What is it? This one missed me.
It's very deceptive. Basically, the reason I didn't latch onto this at the beginning was because Global Domination is like a fashion brand in Second Life. So I thought, you go to the Global Domination store and then you wander around the store and they have a mini hunt for you to pick up gifts in their store, and it's a way of keeping you in their store to sell Global Domination t-shirts or whatever they sell. But actually it transpires it's actually quite an interesting little hunt, because when you get there you have to solve a whole range of mini puzzles each time you get to the prizes. So it's not just a matter of hunting down the prize, but then it's like one of those iPad games or something. In order to pick it up, you've got to go through a whole mini puzzle to actually access the prize. So in terms of, the thing I'm not quite sure is how much of it is in their store and how much of it is in other locations. But it's certainly a good way to keep people hanging around. I mean, it's almost Mad Peas sort of territory. But the idea here seems to be that you solve a puzzle before you can pick up the prize when you find it. So you've got two jobs really. One is to find it,
and one is to pick up and one is to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I was going to say that was pretty much what we were doing with Black Mirror.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it would appeal to you.
And that combination is really, I think, a real winner. I mean, it adds something to the just go find the objects.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sometimes with hunts where you get into the mode of, I want the objects, so let's just turn on area search. Or beacons.
They did it, of course. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yes, or beacons, which is the other way to sometimes find prize items without actually
giving away all the clues here, aren't you? You're giving away the cheats.
The cheats, yes, the cheats.
Sim radar, if you know what the object's called or the object containing it, it's naughty. It's very naughty, but I guess. Yeah, I tend to, if I'm getting frustrated, then. Yeah, beacons and radars, let's just try that. And then if I'm getting really frustrated, especially if I know what the prize is and I want it, then the rule book's out the window. I think, well, time for emergency tactics here.
Yeah, well, the ones that always get me are the ones that it's a nifty prize, but it's in a store that is not very inspiring.
Mm.
Otherwise, it's not an interesting place to hunt.
Mm.
And I could think of a few occasions like that, or ones where the area you have to hunt is a needle in the haystack kind of situation.
Yes.
Where there's a hole where something could be hidden anywhere in a sim, and it's the size of a fingernail. Those kind of stretch
those are generally the ones where I find something that is on the path of a completely different hunt and end up going off on a completely different hunt. Because,
Yeah, I love that. You get into a store and there's several hunt prizes, and you quickly find the one you're not looking for, or one of the ones you're not looking for, and then discover that hunt, and you're off on that hunt, and you completely forget about the hunt you started on.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the hunt I was. Yes. Very much.
I tend to judge by the blog posts, and I love those ones where they put pictures of the prizes up and things, because then I think, well, there's goodies on this one, and I'll look at another one and think, oh, there's not really much on this one. So I tend to choose the hunt I go on based on pictures of the prizes that I'm likely to find.
The one that really appealed to me recently was on a couple of happy huntings ago, and the hunt is now finished. I think it was one of the sour pickles hunts, and it was the cold hunt, where there were items for you if you had a cold, and it included things like a sofa to lie on with hankies that would give you hankies to sniff. Chicken soup, you could have chicken soup and drink it, and and a cracker. It was great. It was a very clever hunt. That's one of the fun things when they have themes and ideas to inspire you. That was really
yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yes, I think so.
And you can never keep me away from a steampunk hunt either.
Yeah,
that becomes priority, whenever.
Now, I was going to say, talking of period pieces, I have got some very exciting news.
Oh.
Joe Yardley of 1920s Berlin is working on a new sim. And it's going to be the Blitz, the London Blitz.
Ooh.
Which I think is going, when Germany was bombing London and the East End was being destroyed. And she's going to do a sim based around this. And I think it's going to be, if Berlin is anything to go by, I think it's going to be fantastic.
I can really envisage the kind of immersion you could get out of that. Not pleasant, I would imagine, but do you remember we went? We certainly went south here, and I know Dizzy and I went with NBC. But the guys up in Oxford there who did the World War II,
World War One. Yes.
World War One. Sorry, I was talking about it the week
right.
and getting confused because there's now World War II build as well. But that, was an example of something that was wholly immersive, wholly educational. Wasn't particularly fun, but was compelling. But was compelling enough to keep you there, wasn't it? It was
absolutely. You went right.
And that sim, by the way, is still there.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
There was a change in ownership that's kept it going. Mal, you might remember that was one I did a machinima of, and that machinima's gotten a lot of mileage.
Yes.
We did a Designing World show set there, and we took an extract from it as well. And the folk group, Coop Boys and Simpson, let us use one of their songs, which was very kind of them, because they do they've done some wonderful albums of First World War songs and songs related to the First World War. And we part of the video was actually showing it with this song, Only Remember, and it's just so moving, incredibly moving.
Mm.
But Tara, you must send me your links to your machinima. I'd love to see it.
Sure. Yeah, it's
very
it's in my YouTube stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'll send you a link.
Back. Yeah.
I think it's under Webdakini. I think that's my username over there. Yeah, that's a long-standing web identity of mine. Just a minute.
I wonder if the Blitz one, they could get together with the World War II air simulator people. There's we visited it. It's Metaverse Live. We did, I think. The guys invited us over there, and they insisted on taking us up in their planes and flying all over the place and doing all this tactical bombing and evading each other in the sky. It was I really couldn't wait to get off actually after a while. I mean, it's driving me nuts. But they really stick. They're real aeronautical sort of guys, and it's not just take up a prim plane and pander around. It's really heavily orchestrated, skilled air combat. You can imagine
was that the Flying Tigers?
Yeah, yes, that's one of them. Yeah, and you can just imagine them sort of getting together with a build of the Blitz or something.
I think sadly they've closed.
Flying Tigers.
I think so. I think that sim has gone. I don't know if they're still around as an organisation, but I think the sim has gone. I know that Elric did some training with them and actually qualified as a Flying Tiger. Something he loves doing, and so he did it. But I have a feeling that the actual sim has gone away now, which is a great shame.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, most of it, of course, was up in the sky, so I suppose anywhere they can find where they got a few sims to fly around in, they can, but they did have, all the stuff on the ground too. So I did hear somebody speaking of them in the week, and I was getting my World War II and I confused temporarily. And I had the impression they were still there, but if they have gone, it'd be sad. I'll have to look that up. I'm sure the group is still there, if nothing else. There were plenty.
Yes, I hope so. Can't remember what the sim was called.
Neither can I offhand, I'm afraid. It's just too many of them, really. Okay, I hear some furious typing, looking up something there. Right, well, I've just looked at the end of my list there. So,
do you think we've covered it?
Well, yes, I think we just go around the non-existent table and see if and it. Yes, great. Over to Better Love.
No, not yet. What I need to do is settle down and write a blog post about it and see if we can decide with people what they would like to see in those. I think we need an open discussion about what sort of things people would like to see being put into the kiosks. And when we've done that, we can then start distributing them. But yeah, I must get on with that.
Anything else, Sophia?
I think I did go and see an absolutely beautiful sim this morning. If you like rain in Second Life, there is a new sim that's opened. Anna Macmillan has blogged about it today.
Oh, yes.
And I went over because to take some pictures for the almost daily Prim Perfect jigsaw, and she has got some glorious pictures of it. It's well worth seeing. It's called 2304 Rain, and it's on a sim called Sankt Moritz, I think. Hang on. Yes, it's SANKTMORITZ. And it really is a beautiful, beautiful location. Honor, of course, has got the most lovely pictures out of it.
As she always does, yeah.
I
just imagine that might be a difficult jigsaw with every slice of jigsaw, all the slices of jigsaw arranged.
Yeah, well, my jigsaw fans like things difficult. They do tend to get a little miffed if I give them too many ones with bulbs in. They don't like the daily jigsaw that I post on Plurk and Twitter and Facebook. It gets quite a few people, quite a few people like it. The Plurk stream is the fun one because people who do it then post their scores on Plurk or else refuse to post their scores on Plurk. How do you do it so fast? I'm not telling you how long it took me.
I have a Plurk account, but I can't remember when I last visited that one, unfortunately. But it's it's still a very popular Plurk. So yeah. It does. You must, I presume, have been on. It's not the current one. It was the previous Mad Cow hunt that was.
Not Mad Cow.
Yeah. Oops, see, you know what I'm like, folks. Sorry, my pee. They had the hotel. They had the Hotel 265 or whatever it's called. But the landing spot there before you went on the hunt was another one with phenomenal rain. I mean, I landed there, and I thought, where have I landed? It's because until you actually fully rezzed all the rain, you didn't realize you were in the rain, and then you couldn't really. You only actually had to go a few yards and you were in the shelter of the hotel lobby. But, initially you thought, which way do I walk? What do I do? Because all this incredible rain was falling everywhere. And, it was only a small patch, but it was
definitely a true immersive experience.
Which is what it's all about. So this one sounds great. I saw on this blog this morning, so I'll have to follow that one up. Let's go. Another one on the list.
Yep, another one. It's well worth going. I just had a little wander around earlier, and it was lovely.
Great.
But wet. Definitely need boots. Definitely.
It would be, sort of. Can't escape the slush even in the virtual world. Most of it, of course, is called lag, and it's created by Lyndon Lebs, but that's another matter. The virtual mud. I'm actually in the process of writing. I don't know whether I'll ever get round to it. Actually, it was interesting. Various changes going on, and sort of. When is the cloud not a cloud? when it becomes fog. It was just an analogy I had in mind, but there's so many services you don't know where they all are, and half of them then vanish on you just when you're relying on them. That's another story, isn't it? Thank you, live stream. You are still here, at least.
Even if you won't record.
Even if you
consistently.
Exactly. Okay, so now back when we had the live action version of the Week in Review, then we would be nearing the end of the show. Of course, I would hand over to Tara and say, and now it's time to go back to Tara for her roundup of the week. So,
well, I just have one last item that I wanted to mention that caught my attention in looking at things. It's something I want to try to catch. A new production that just opened yesterday by a group called the Independent Ballet Company called Accept.
Oh, yes.
It's based on an original concept, and it's a blend of ballet with modern dance, and has 4 characters in it. The story follows the journey of 4 young women with very different personal histories as they face their unique challenges, and each look at those around them, making judgments and observing the world around them, seeing only barriers, and who are ultimately all brought together by their mutual love of dance. Sounds really interesting, and there's a schedule of when it's currently planned yesterday. There's Saturdays, the next several Saturdays. In RAP's blog is the resource for the dates and locations. So I'm sure that they're doing some kind of a sign up to get into that, knowing how anytime you get a performance focused event, they need to control how many people are arriving. So the dancers work as expected.
I think
that looks really interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I can't see Sapphire may also have to do with the fact that I can't get my inventory up either, because I do seem to remember getting an IM with a notice about that this morning. But Ivana Prey's blog is it's Living in the Modern World one, isn't it, Tara?
Yeah, it's modernworld.wordpress.com.
Yeah, okay, so do check out that for more info.
Yes.
Right, so are we all
That's it for me, and Rainbow seems to have just slept through the whole show.
Yes, I was looking at Cole Coastman's comments in the channel, and apparently he has been turning his head towards me and then you and stuff. And I don't know whether he's doing it as we talk or whether it's just random. But
it's
his attention has been moving as the show has progressed. Put it that way. Yes.
Yeah, they do roll, which is very cute when they do a rollover.
And somehow they managed to do it without falling off as well, which is even more remarkable. I think
cats, they're clever.
Yeah, I think it was the RL ones. Half the time they fall off and say, "Oh, I meant to do that." As if we believe them. Yes, indeed.
There's been a request for a zoom in on the cat.
Oh yes, La Piskin, who was with us last week, of course, right here. He's in this watching live in the chat room.
He'll know then whether they film the talks at LEA. Oh
yes, yes, Lap. If you're listening, we were talking earlier about the LEA talks, and we know you were having, you filmed quite a lot there, so we was just wondering if the talks were being filmed. Oh my goodness, what a little kitty. A lifelike kitty. Wait till you see me when I'm off.
No, he's asleep. He's happy.
Well, they do all sorts of stuff when you prompt.
Oh no, he says he's sleeping, and I can't pick him up right now.
But he would like some food, no doubt. They usually do.
Oh well, okay. Now I can do that. I just woke him up.
Oh,
there.
Oh, now
he's awake.
Yes, as I say, he's just got the fabulous rainbow prism eyes that are very cool.
I'm wondering, now we're going to be doing it this way every week. Maybe we should have a different feline guest every week.
Well, that could happen.
Yes.
I figure that the megapusses have gotten some attention, and I almost brought my megapus today, but I figured no, I'll start off with a normal sized.
I have yet to upload, maybe it'll be on next week's show, a clip I took of Tara with her megapus. And believe me, you can see lots of megapus, but you can see much of Tara underneath it. It was a fun 30-second clip to take there, I must say. Right. Well, one of the things we've never been able to do with Inworld Review is sort of, and I don't know if this is going to be regular, but I can actually tell you sort of a bit about what's going to be happening next week here. Amongst the guests who've provisionally planned to join us, we'll be having a chap called Sunny Salamander, who is the guy behind the Pixie Viewer we mentioned last week. This is a metaverse viewer which won't work with Second Life, but will work with OpenSim. It's authored solely in HTML5. And it means that it can run on a web page, or it can be an app on your iPad, or it can be an app on your Android. Basically, it's HTML5, so it walks everywhere. HTML5 being one of the new high-powered web standards. HTML5, for example, is already used, for example, a lot of the time when you go to YouTube. You're no longer seeing a Flash embed. You will, if your settings are right, you will actually see an HTML5 rendering of the video. And the beauty of it is you really don't notice the difference. But with HTML5, you do not need a plugin, let alone Flash, which is fairly ubiquitous anyway. So hopefully he will be talking about that. So I'm also hoping to get Fleet 2 from Fleet Grid, of course, back next week to join that particular conversation. Thanks to Pet Love, we will also, I gather, be joined by somebody from the Dazzlers. Is that right, Pet?
Yeah, she's.
Oh, so it'd be slide from one into the other, so to speak. And we're also going to be joined next week by an old friend of the channel. We haven't seen her for ages, actually. She's been a bit poorly for a couple of months, but she's going to join us next week, and that's Debs Regent from Virtual London. So she'll be
excellent.
So she'll be in the the hot seats here with us too. So we know we've almost certainly got 4 guests, and if everybody else pops up, we'll have to get Tara to raise some extra seats. And it's the food, yeah. So that'll be all the fun of the fair, so to speak, next week. So I think, unless anybody can think of anything very quickly, that's going to be a bit of a wrap for this week. I'd like to thank, as always, Safia Woodshins for co-hosting Inworld here. I don't know who's the co-host and what now, really, but thank you, Safia, as ever.
My pleasure, Mal.
Thanks also to Pet Love. I always need to thank Pet Love for being such a wonderful filmer, but also today in particular because she's decided to plonk herself on a seat with us, which really...
Yes, I was going to say.
And probably hasn't turned her mic back on.
Behind her back.
So I'm delighted to have you here, Bet, as always. Even if I am forcing you into duress and multitasking. Yeah, we do. We thrive on the right kind of stress, I think, don't we? Yeah, we do. And of course, thanks to Tara, I guess I can say my full co-presenter, so to speak, of the week in review, the whole gamut. So one day we will get this sorted, especially when we'll be back live in Chilbur next week. But thanks, Tara.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a quick build here to give us a set and a sim where we had voice. since Cholo, at least as of 5 minutes before showtime, still didn't have voice today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great to be here. See you next week.
And a special thank you to the invisible chaps at Linden Labs who have been playing with the voice settings. Yes. No, we won't go there. We will just be back here, same time, same place next week. Join us at noon, second live time, 8 p.m. UK, 9 p.m. Central Europe, for the whole gamut, really. That is it for this show. If you are, however, watching us live, the Metaverse Week in Review, the full show does continue at live stream with some clips that we've put together of all the best stuff from the week, really. That's all I can say. Music, education, arts, what have you. Stuff to keep you entertained for another 90 minutes or so, I guess. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks from all my guests again. And I guess you could say we're out of here. And see you next week.